Welcome to Idaho and the long-anticipated launch of the all-new 2020 Hyundai Palisade. So when you look at Hyundai's crossover, especially three-row crossover history, there was a Veracruz, then there was the Santa Fe XL. It's all gone. Forget it. An all-new crossover, the Palisade, and this is brilliant. Easily the best value proposition in the segment. I could say that hands down, with the asterisk of the Kia Telluride, because they're basically the same vehicles, but there are some distinctions, and we're going to point some of those out, but mostly we're going to talk about the Palisade and what a great value it is. We had a real treat this morning. We had the head of Hyundai Design US, and he really took us into an in-depth presentation of how they came up with this design. So it was a competition, Europe, Korea, and the US won. Actually, US had two versions, and both were the top two. So you have this cascading grille, but as Chris pointed out, it's no longer this Russian doll where every vehicle has to have the same face in the family. Instead, now it's more like chess pieces. They all have the same foundation, but this is the king. You know, you've got other pieces, and that's how they're looking at their model lineup moving forward. And I like it. And this is very distinctive. So up here you have the DRLs. Well, what's nice is these DRLs, they're an extension of this whole line that goes down the shoulder of the vehicle, comes all the way down, and then they're separated. This DRL separated. These are your headlights, and over here you've got this vent that actually takes air and pushes it through, and that really helps to stabilize the vehicle. And when you come over here to the side of the vehicle, you can see that it's very masculine, but also very premium. He pointed out this right here, this aluminum kind of framing that goes all the way around the vehicle. You know, when you look at this vehicle, has a lot of DLO or daylight opening, and that same styling cue carries through to the doors. As mentioned, this is the SCL, and so these wheels are a little bit smaller than what you would find on the Limited, but still they fill the wheel wells quite nicely. And then when you come over here, this shoulder line continues and goes right into the taillights, wraps down. I love these taillights. This three-quarter rear view is one of my favorites. Very reminiscent of Cadillac Escalade, Range Rover, much more expensive, more premium vehicles. Under the hood, you'll find an old familiar friend, the 3.8-liter V6 engine. This is a great engine, and whether it's a front wheel or all-wheel drive, they're both going to get the 8-speed automatic transmission. For the front-wheel drive, combined fuel economy 22. For the all-wheel drive, around 21. The 8-speed automatic transmission works great, and the horsepower is 291 and the torque 262. The power delivery is good. You know, it's not a turbo, it's a gas direct injection engine, but it's worked well for Hyundai, and it's really been a solid trouble-free engine for them. Even though the Palisade doesn't replace an outgoing Palisade, it replaces an outgoing three-row SUV made by Hyundai. And it's larger in every way, has a lot more headroom. One of the cool features is the double sunroof. So we've been talking about panoramic sunroofs for a long time, and Hyundai said by going with a double sunroof, you're going to get more headroom, and kudos to them for doing that, because we've really experienced that today, and it's been very pleasant. Earlier today, we were in the top-of-the-line Limited Palisade, and now we're driving the vehicle that is going to be more of the high-volume trim, which is the SCL. There's also a base SE. Base SE starts around $33,500 for a front-wheel drive, a loaded. Limited about 46 and change with all-wheel drive and all the bells and whistles. The SCL is going to be the high volume, and that's because it's going to have that sweet spot of around $36,000, $37,000. And when you think about it, that is an amazing bargain. That is where you can easily option up a RAV4 or CRV, which is nowhere near the vehicle this is. And when you look at the real competitors like the Explorer, this can come in a good $4,000 to $8,000 cheaper, if not more. A loaded out Explorer ST is $60,000. So, and let's not even talk about the quality and the drivability. So what we are going to talk about is the Palisade's interior and technology, and even though this is just the middle trim level, we actually like this light colored wood. The Limited, they had more of the piano black and other styling cues, but we actually like this one better. Kind of has that expensive yacht feel to it. the interior treatment that Hyundai did, I think is a little bit nicer than the Telluride. Telluride's gone more for the off-road, and Hyundai's gone more for the upscale premium, and it works. Both vehicles are very capable off-road vehicles, but as far as the interior. So because this is the SEL and as well as the SE, they're going to get analog gauges. Earlier today we were driving with the full high definition TFT screen, and really like that because you have the turn signals that when activated will bring up a camera, a left camera or a right camera depending on the turn signal, and we really like that. It's a nice safety feature. You know, Honda's got something similar, but it's only for the right turn signal, and I think it's called Lane Watch. This is much better. It's the next version of Lane Watch, really. As far as seat comfort, both the SEL and Limited are very comfortable. Again, are there more comfortable vehicles? Sure, you can spend 70, 80 grand on a Q8, for example, but you're spending a lot more money. For the price point, some of the best seats we've been in, again, looking at the segment, which also includes vehicles like the Highlander, mentioned the Pilot, Explorer, Durango, etc. As far as drivability, so this is a front-wheel drive SEL. Earlier we were in an all-wheel drive Limited. So the all-wheel drive Limited is going to have 6 different drive modes. This offers 4 drive modes. It's not going to have the H-Track, which is Hyundai's all-wheel drive system. You can add H-Track to any of the trim levels for an extra $1,700, and if you live in cold climate, highly recommend it. Also, this infotainment screen is a little bit smaller in the SEL, but it's still very high definition, very intuitive. Just go drive a Lexus RX 350L, a vehicle that costs $15,000 to $20,000 more than the top-of-the-line Limited, and the technology, the quality of materials, in my opinion, doesn't even come close to this car, and you're spending more money. So kudos to Hyundai for really stepping it up and not just pushing the segment that they compete in directly, but also some of the luxury brands that may need to look over their shoulder as you know, as people start watching their pennies. You know, they might ask, why should I spend all this money on a QX60 or an Acura MDX when I can get this vehicle for $15,000 to $20,000 less, a better warranty, etc., etc. Lots of great safety technology in the Palisade. One of our favorites is the lane follow, and it does a great job. So for years we've heard about lane keep assist, and this has lane keep assist, but also has the lane follow technology, which is standard on all 3 trim levels. Very impressive, and it does a great job of keeping the vehicle in the lane, and it almost guides you as you're going around the turn. So very impressive safety technology. The vehicle itself is very safe, has high strength steel throughout, a lot of crumple zones, and you know, they have 60% high strength steel, which is way more than the competition, for example, the Ford Explorer. So they've really done a great job, and that helps not only with safety but also with the ride quality. As you can see, we're just using the regular Osmo Action microphone, so I wanted you to hear exactly what it feels like in here. I'll even turn the fan down a little bit, and you can see it's a very quiet, refined vehicle, very comfortable, and you know, just great visibility. Again, SEL doesn't have the head-up display. The Limited did have it, and that's also a nice feature that you would expect to find in more expensive and the higher trim levels across the board. One thing we're not big fans of is this push-button transmission. I think Hyundai could have done a better job with this, but I'm sure you can get used to it. It's just if you're doing like a 3-point turn, it's not exactly the most intuitive thing, and takes a few extra steps. I think a shifter on the column might have been a little bit better. Still would have had the same savings. You have 7 USBs. You've got wireless charging. The list of features in this vehicle just goes on and on and on. And again, just keep coming back to that one thing. $46,000 for a fully loaded one. That's a great price point, and that's really what Hyundai is all about. As far as seating, you have the option for 7 or 8 passenger, depending if you want the captain's chairs or the bench seat for the second row. You also have much easier access to the third row, and it's no longer what they call a penalty box because the third row reclines. and the second row electronically can move, slide. So a lot of great ways to configure your Palisade for whatever you need. As far as cargo room, it's right up there with the best in the segment. Plenty of cargo room. When you look at the competition for this vehicle, don't just look at its direct competitors. Even look at vehicles like the Escalade and the Denali, not the XL, but the regular Denali, and it has very comparable room, and it's very usable room, and it's a very easy vehicle to drive. Another design cue the designer pointed out are these clipping ends in the rear of the Palisade, and they really stand out and distinguish it from other crossovers. There are at least 6 or 7 direct competitors in the same ballpark, but clearly Palisade has emerged as not only the best value, but in my opinion, the most premium looking of the non-luxury brands. I got to tell you, this is going to be a home run, and if any indication of the supply of the Telluride, which is barely a few days, those things are selling like hotcakes. I think the Palisade is going to do quite well in the marketplace. I'm Ron Doran. Thanks for watching. See you next time on The Driver's Seat.